Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Juan Awards podcast. I'm Juan Alanis.
And I'm Angelica Casares.
And Happy New Year, officially. We're in 2021 now. Officially, we're in 2021. And this is actually, I think I'm going to make this the beginning of a third season. Since we finished, I think we were at a good stopping point at the last show that we did. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to make this the beginning of a third season.
Okay.
So, welcome to season 3.
Oh, yay! Season 3 of Juan Awards podcast.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? I didn't
think we were gonna get past like a first season.
We did. We're season 1,
and then I didn't even think we were gonna get past the second season. Let's be honest. I have to say though, this has been, wow. Even though it's been less than a year, it's been a whole journey.
A journey in a good way or in a bad way?
A journey.
A journey.
Let's just keep it there. It's just been a journey.
It's been an interesting journey.
And it's just been a journey.
It's been a journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good and bad.
Huh?
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Yeah. No, they've been good. Definitely been good and bad. I think overall, but I think it's been fun, regardless of how I don't know what you say. Whatever an experience it was, it's been fun. Either way.
Either way?
Yeah, either way, good, bad, it's been an experience. It's been a fun experience.
Let's just say it's been an experience.
No la voy a sacar de ahí.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But you're like, you were just asking me about the hat you're wearing. Mm-hmm. And why don't you, I want to mention it a little bit, because that hat, like, mm-hmm. I think we had that hat made
years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was part of our this was the beginning of our digital journey.
Yeah, when we first started mm-hmm. creating content on social media
years ago, years
and years ago, like over 10 years ago, we're talking, like back in
almost 10 years ago. I feel like it hasn't been 10 years yet.
No, it's been 10 years officially.
You started the blog and you started the journey, but it was like well into like maybe a year or two. So we're coming up on 10 years. I mean, it's been almost an entire decade. That sounds a lot. An entire decade that we've been on social.
And, it was 2010.
Yeah.
Then, so
this though, metiches was our like thing, los metiches.
Yeah, for a little while, like we self-branded ourselves as Los Metiches because I think part of the reason, that logic that we were using back then was that, we ask a lot of questions. We're always we always put ourselves in the middle of everything.
We're always in the mix.
Yeah, we're always
the middle. Yeah.
Throwing ourselves in the middle of everything. And it kind of like we started using it, kind of playing around.
Yeah.
And then people seemed to like it back then, and they were like, "Oh, los metiches." And then then people would like see us sometimes, like people that we knew, like our friends, and they would be like, "Oh, look, it's the metiches," and like to poke fun at us.
Every now and then, we still get it from our friends. Every now and then, it takes me back, and I'm like, "Oh, that's right. That's what we that was like our reference to like los metiches."
But I think we
had a whole YouTube channel and everything. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I think what it was I was gonna say, the video that we did. We when you were dressed up and you had like pom poms on your hair, and like we did it outside of my old job, and like it was like silly. We made a lot of like silly videos. Yeah,
we did. We tried to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We did a lot of not silly videos. I think it was more entertaining videos. Some of them just happened to be silly, and a lot of them were definitely entertaining. It was like we were. What would you say? It was like the call of the times, right? So it was whatever what was talking about, or whatever people were referencing. So you know how everybody's like talking about chingona? Mm-hmm. I remember like back then, everybody was like back into like the frame of mind of like Chavo del Ocho, and so it was easy to poke fun at the things that people were already paying attention to.
Yeah, and I think like, I like to say that it was like, or I guess I would describe it as like, I was a lot younger and a lot more willing to make an ass of myself.
So like, we still are.
No, I feel like I guess I'm. You have to convince me, because I'm not that like I'll think about it. But back then, like I remember, like because I remember there was a video that I made. Like one of the video that I made was about piropos for Valentine's Day, and it was like a silly video where I was like, it was right here, like we shot it like really low quality. Really low quality shot filming, and and it was just me like in different like weird like funny positions where I would like, and I would just say a piropo, or like, and you would like walk by, or like it was just like weird. It was like a funny video, but it actually did well.
Did it?
And then I did another one horrible. And then I did another one where I was making refried beans, and where I was making salsa de molcajete. And it was just like, there was just funny videos, but it's just,
you see that right there is not funny. Why would that be funny? You making salsa de molcajete?
Because to me, it is funny to see myself like in an actual cooking video, because I'm like, I'm not a cook. So why was I trying to teach people how to make salsa?
You straight up go ask your mom. Like,
if I didn't even know how to make it myself, like, well.
Yeah, you would like go ask your mom. Like it was a whole, it was like a whole project for you. Like go ask your mom and you do this. And like you thought you were really giving people out there like a sense of like quality stuff.
I know, but now it's the type of thing that when you look back and you look at it, you're like, oh, cringe.
You cringe? No, it's not even cringe. You're like, why in the world would I do that? Why did I do that? Yeah.
That's why now I'm like more hesitant to be like, I don't know if I want to do that, because I'm going to look back in like 10 years and I'm going to be like, what the hell were you doing?
No, I don't mind making, not an ass of myself like that, but I don't mind creating content that's enjoyable.
Yeah. No, I see the purpose of it, and I think it's just a hang up of mine, honestly. Like, okay. I don't think that there's anything wrong with making content, and I enjoy it, and I like being pushed into doing it. But it just takes me more to be convinced now.
Me asusta, pero me gusta.
Yeah, like I'm like, push me, come on, nudge me along. Because I don't want to look like I'm the one that's just like, hey, I'm gonna do this.
I was told I need to do it.
Yeah, I'm doing it because she influenced. They pushed me into this. No. Yeah. But it was a good memory. Like, it brings back a lot of good memories just to see that hat and that name, because it really was like, I feel like it was like part of our identity, and I kind of feel like, I don't know that it still is or not, but it's cool to see it again.
Yeah,
to see it.
I think we definitely didn't know what the hell we were doing. I look back on these times and I think to myself, we for sure took a lot longer to grow from it than I think we should have. Yeah. We were so stuck in our ways. We were so like diligent. I'm like, no, this is the way it is. And we insisted that that was our way of like mental success, and not even like outward success, like mental success. As long as we stuck to it, it meant that we were consistent, and it meant that we were doing something.
And I think that maybe part of it is that the digital age, there was like such a like, I feel like at the beginning there was kind of such a formula to be like, well, you do this and you do that, and then like, this is the step. These are the steps that you follow, and then this is what the ultimate goal is. And like, there was like to the point where I kind of got stuck in that little formula. I was like, well, no, this is my formula. Like, I produce blogs, posts, and I publish them, and I share them on social, and I talk to people on social media. This is what I'm supposed to do. And it took me so long to get out of that like mentality of being like,
sometimes I revert back to it.
Yeah, because it's what we know. Like,
we take it so personal.
Yeah, when we started, that's what it was. That was the motto. Like, you did that. Like, that's the way you got on social. But now it's so different. Like, you don't have to have any of that. Like, you can be just doing all kinds of other stuff.
So for some reason we think like that's our life, like our essence or something, because sometimes it's so personal. It's so personal, like, having my personal image out there. But I keep forgetting that that's just a brand. That's an extension of me. That's not entirely me. And I need to stop taking it personal. And we did for such a long time take that very personal. And I think that wasn't really a really good idea, because it hindered a lot of, I don't know, maybe moving forward.
But it's funny,
going in different directions.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's funny though, because when you look at other people's content, like, I don't look at them like, if I see my friend's content, I don't look at their content as like, oh, that's her, like, that's exactly who he or she, that's exactly who they are. I just look at their content and like, oh, okay, that's their online content.
Yeah. And you don't think that's them.
Yeah, but for me, it was hard for me to make that disconnect and be like, oh no, that's just my online stuff. That's not like fully me.
Yeah.
And I think, like, to your point, I think that was a big transition.
Yeah. I have to remember that it's the things that I put out there are just an extension of who I am. Yeah. It's not completely me. Like, it's just a part of my thought. And I'm putting it out there to share.
Oh, it's a snapshot in time. Like, it's a snapshot in time.
And it's
where you were in that specific moment.
Correct. Sometimes you think you're creating evergreen content, and it's not. It's to the time that it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we talked about it in a previous episode, like we were talking about hindsight. Like sometimes when you look at things in hindsight and then you're like, like you may not like or even agree with what you said or did, or you might be like, oh, that was cool, whatever. But like you might just feel differently about it. And like when you look back at it another time, it doesn't even have to be that long. Like you can look at it back like next week and be like, oh man, why did I post that video?
So I was having a conversation yesterday with another thrifter, and she has like a group called Thrift in Houston, and we did a Zoom call in which she recorded the phone call, and we just had a conversation about thrifting and stuff like that. And she asked me, she was like, so how did you start off? And I was like, oh, nobody's ever asked me that. Where did I start? And then I had to remember like what my username for me. My journey started on IG, and so I'm very much stuck in like IG, right? Even though my numbers have grown on Facebook, my number has, you know what I mean? That's where your
preference is IG.
Yeah, and then but I prefer IG. Like I give it a lot more care and attention because that's the platform that I started. And now I see and understand why people are so diligent and they're so reluctant to let go of Twitter. Even though Twitter, yes, it's still existing, and yes, it's still holding strong, and then yes, everybody, even young people, are like jumping on for a very long time, where it did deplete in some users. The growth wasn't that strong, but it sounds like Twitter at some point is going to
I think Twitter is not where it started a long time ago. Like Twitter was a thing. Twitter was like when it first came out, when it was first being used, it was so conversational. Like you would go there and like literally you could have conversations. Like, have you heard of that new platform that's out right now? The one that
Cloud? No,
Clubhouse, where everybody just goes on there and they just have conversations.
I keep trying to open a new account for them.
Oh yeah,
I've been trying to for the last like month or two since I've heard about it.
Really?
For a while. You have an account already?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
I
need to jump on it already. I need to hurry up and jump on that shit.
But I have an account and I went in there, but I just can't. I didn't give it much time, but that's me usually with any new social media network. Yeah. I'll go in and I'm like, okay, I don't get it, and I'll get out. And then I'll come back like.
It's like you want a bed of roses as soon as you enter.
Yeah,
or something.
I'm like when I walk in, I'm like, well, okay, like yeah, I see what the point is, but I'm like, oh, okay, I get bored, and then I'm like, okay, I'm out, and and then I'll leave an account there, and then eventually I'll come back and like try to play around with it, but Twitter was like that back then, where everybody would just go on there and talk, and I think it's not necessarily like that anymore.
I don't know. I'm not a Twitter user, but I've heard of people who are like, no, Twitter's not going anywhere because that's their choice of platform.
Yeah.
And so IG for me is that, and so when I first started, I think I was just sharing, it's called Crafty Thrifter. And so I was just sharing like my manualidades, which is crafts, and which was like my thrift store finds.
Yeah.
And it was just a picture of them, and it was like an iPhone picture, and it was horrible shots too at that. It was like, look what I found, and look at this, and this is what I seen, and this is whatever. And that's basically the way I started off as Crafty Thrifter. And then I was so reluctant. I was like, no. Like it has to be its own thing. It can't be me. Like I can't show my face. Like I can't give my opinion. Like I don't want to do that. And then I started to do it, and then I'm still like reluctant again. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop taking this platform so personal. Like it's just an extension of me. It's not entirely me. I need to get over myself.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is like I guess any social media like is what you put out there. Like you don't necessarily, if you share everything about yourself, then obviously it can be more realistically you. But if you're more curated, like most people, then it's not necessarily the person that if people meet you in person, they might be like, oh, well, that's not the girl that I know on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the same person. It's somebody else.
Yeah.
But so they asked you that question, how you got started?
So she asked me how I got started, and I had to think back like where I got started, and then today it's totally completely different. And then it had me thinking back on our digital journey. I was insisting that I play like a sidekick. I was insisting that this is me, and then and it wasn't only like just me. Like I think you had like a lot of pushback, like even like on ideas. And you're like, no. This is the way. This is my formula, like you said earlier.
Like
this
your
is my
ideas
formula.
or what?
Not only my ideas, but concepts, strategies.
Yeah. No, you definitely from the beginning you would like question me. So, and I hated that because I would be like, you would say, well, why don't you do this? And I would like, but that's not the way it's done. But that's not the way I do it. That's not the way I like to do it. That's not the way we're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, but why not? And I would just be like,
and I just get frustrated and give up.
And then I would get frustrated and I'd be like, and then I would think about it and I would like, okay, well, I guess why not? I mean, I guess, well, yeah, what is holding me? Like, why not? Why can't I do it like that? And then eventually, like, whether it was like...
I don't know why you fight it every time.
I don't know whether it was like a week later or like a day later or months later.
Yeah. And I'd be like, really?
And then we eventually would be like, oh, okay, yeah, like that let's go forward with that.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good segue into kind of what I was hoping to talk about a little bit today, awesome. Which is communication in general.
Oh, in general, not in a relationship.
Well, yeah, in our relationship, communication in our relationship. and I think given that this is the new year, a new start, fresh start to the communication channels and like
communication channels. What in the world is happening?
But before we go there, let me just tell you real quick about our sponsors. And those are Remesa, who Remesa you're familiar with. We told you about it in our last episode, but they're a online money transfer service that you can download. They actually have an app called Remesa, and they have a sweepstakes going on right now through the 15th of January where you can go and enter for a chance to win a trip for 4 to anywhere in Latin America. And I know some of you may be thinking like, oh, travel right now, but it's not necessarily that you have to travel right now. So you can travel at a later date, but it is either that, or you can also win a chance to meet and greet a reggaeton artist by the name of Sech, who is pretty popular and has a lot of popular songs going on right now. But you can go and get more information about this at lobonitodedar.com. And it's lobonitodedar.com, and you can get the information there. And again, the app that you would download is Remesa, the Remesa app. So that's one sponsor that we wanted to tell you about. And then the other sponsor that we do want to mention is Comcast, our friends at Comcast, which you just use their internet to check your phone in.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just pointing out that our wireless internet connection is working.
Yeah.
Because you're getting your text messages. But with Comcast Xfinity, we are working with them and talking about their X5 pods. Outside of everything that they do good in the community, we are like sharing with you about their X5 pods, which we use at home, and they allow us to boost our internet and get better speeds and connections throughout our home. Yeah. So look into the X5 pods if you're interested. And with that, let's kind of jump into communication.
All right, I'm ready to fight. Let's do this.
I know. Well, it's interesting that you make that connection.
Why?
It's interesting that you make that connection, from communication to fighting.
Let's do this. I got it. But let me put on my gloves. I got it. Let's do it.
The battle royale. Let's get ready to rumble.
You back up on your bullshit. Don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy. I don't like what I see. I got all the game. Don't get fucked in your brain. I can do you worse than you ever did me first.
Hey, this is Angelica Casares.
And this is Juan Alanis.
Thank you so much for joining us on season 2 of Juana Words Podcast. You can find us on
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, on Stitcher, Spotify, and other platforms. Also on our website at juanawords.com. And we hope you enjoyed the episode that you're listening to right now.
And if you enjoyed it, you can leave us a review and a thumbs up. Especially on the Apple platform, the higher ratings and the reviews we get, the more listeners we actually can be found by.
Yeah.
So
it really does help us. So we really would appreciate it, a rating or a review on Apple Podcast. And until next time, thank you.
See you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Back up on my piece shit, I don't care if you don't like it. I'm really different, don't gotta show you I'm like that. Like the baby.
Do you think that we communicate differently today than when we first got together?
Do I think we communicate differently today than when we first got together? I think we are on our journey to better communication.
It's been a work in progress.
For sure. For sure. Sometimes I get frustrated because I don't understand you a lot of the times. I feel like you revert back. And it's easy. I understand. I get it. I'm a human being also. That a creature of habits. It's easy. It's easy to just be who you know yourself to be normally. It is work when it's not something you're used to. I get it, but it's frustrating.
So when you say I go back, I go back to what?
The old ways of your non-communication.
Okay, which is what?
Which is things like you'll do things like
I have her on the spot right now. We have her on the microphone, and so I'm gonna get this recorded so I can know I'm playing.
So no. I think you go back to a point where it's difficult. You're passive. Very passive.
I'm agreeing because I'm listening, not because I.
No, I know. And this is not difficult to say for me. Actually, you revert back, and I'm trying to do this in a very loving way, so people can understand that I'm not just trying to be. Because when it's just me and you, like I don't mind dishing it out. Like I don't mind being like X, Y, and Z. And I've had to actually learn that. There was a time where I had to play in my mind the things I would say before I said them because I was so afraid of your reaction. And I had to be ready for your reaction, or you're playing of like 20 questions with you. You're like, why this, and why that? And I'm like, you know what? There comes a point where I don't have to answer your questions. This is the way I feel, and that's the way it is. And I was so afraid of that. I was so afraid of to tell you like that. But there's that revert back. It usually looks a lot like just passive aggressiveness, where you don't want to speak, you don't want to talk, and you don't want to. I don't know, like, and then it frustrates me to no end, to the point where I started picking up habits that aren't healthy habits. Also,
like
not because of you, but because it's easier for me to deal with it. So, and it's obvious where I go to the room and I'll stay there for hours, and there's been times I'll stay in there for days.
Yeah. So we definitely I think I definitely am comfortable with the silent treatment a lot more than I think I get quiet. That's my thing. Like when I get upset to a certain point, I get quiet.
Yeah.
And then I kind of not that I refuse to talk, but I just I'm like, okay.
That is the silent treatment, when you refuse to talk.
But I'm like, for the moment, you know what? I'm just gonna I'm gonna stop communication, and it's easy for me to go there. Like it's easy for me to go to that space where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stop talking
for the moment.
And then the moment can extend, and the moment can be a day, the moment can be 2 days, the moment can be longer.
Mind you, sometimes these habitual things, Juan, to stay quiet, the silent treatment, it's about simple plain things that don't even matter in the overall things. And I sometimes that scares me.
In the heat of the moment,
it's I get it, but sometimes sometimes
it's hard because when in the heat of the moment, sometimes so in the heat of the moment, if I'm mad and then you get mad, and then we're both we're both at that point not trying to have a productive conversation. So you say something and then I say something, and then we're just at that point we're just going bickering back and forth. And then to me, when we get to that point where it's just trying to nitpick at each other, to make each other to poke at each other.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen because of that. I think my thing with
what doesn't happen because of that?
Nitpicking at each other because of a small incident or a small situation.
No, I'm saying when it gets there.
No, I know, but when the part that bothers me is that when it's small, minuscule things, it bothers me because what happens when it's a bigger issue. Then it's harder to communicate. It's going to be difficult to understand the other perspective of things. And I think why do I say am I having a hard time with that? Because I feel like I'm in a time in my life. I'm in a moment in my life. I'm reaching, and it has nothing to do with age, but for me, it just happens to be that I'm reaching this age. I'm coming to a place in my life at the moment with the work that I've done on myself, that I don't want to bother with minuscule things. Not that it's not it's important for me to be in the relationship, but I feel like I can just, I don't know. And I'm afraid that if we ever get to a point where we can't figure it out, I'll throw my hands up and be like, okay, then.
But I think it is.
You know what I mean?
I do think it is an age. I do think the age has something to do with it too.
Okay.
Because I think for me too, like I think that's a little bit of part of it is that I'm kind of like, you know, like at certain points where I'm like, okay, you know what, it's not even worth continuing down this road, so I'm just gonna stop talking. And so to me, like that is like my version of what you're saying. Like, you know what, I don't want to deal with it, and I don't want to deal with the situation the way it's going down, so I'm just gonna stop talking. But I do think like when I do afterwards, when I walk away, and then I'd have time to think about it, and like whether it's a day later or several days later, then I'm like, at some point in that process, I realize I'm like, well, is this really worth it to sit here and to be like,
yeah, but you see that you feel like you're right. It does have to do with time, because I feel like I don't have that time anymore to be dealing with like little things that don't matter. Like if you're here with me, then those small things shouldn't matter either.
Yeah, and that's why but it's hard to both be on the same page at the same time, I think, sometimes, like in general, like not just between us.
But it's not, that's the problem though. The overall the overallness of it all should be simple. And I've trying to simplify my life, and I don't want to keep going over the same things that should have been solved 10 years ago.
But that's the thing, like I mean the thing is, when you say like you want a simple life,
not simple,
and then I'm like, but life itself is not simple. So to me, it's like you can't say like you want.
What does that mean? Life itself isn't. This is not.
Life itself is not simple.
I promise you, my life isn't philosophical. Okay. Yes, philosophical. My life is not. This is not difficult.
But I guess what I'm saying is that life is messy. Life is not simple. But I think what I was trying to say before,
when it comes to there's things in life that are always gonna oh my God, how do I say this? There's going to be moments in your life that are going to be completely life-changing. And if we're fighting about the small things, how do you think what's going to happen when it's life-changing, altering moments in your life?
Well, that's what I was trying to get at. Like, that's what I was trying to get at with what I was saying.
No me hables así tampoco.
And then, but that's what I was trying to get at. It's like at some point during that process of like being silent and not speaking, and, you know, being in my like corner and being like, no, she needs to apologize. She needs to come to me and apologize. And like getting in that mindset of like, no, I'm not wrong. And at some point during the whether it's a day or several days of like that, you have that thought, and it's like, or I have that thought, and it's like, if we can't even get past something so small, or whether it's small or not as small, but like if we can't even get past something that's like mundane, like how is it going to be when it's something that really matters? Or, you know. Okay,
it's a good example. What? Can I cut you off really quick?
Cut me off?
Yes.
You're asking permission?
Yes. No, because I have to.
No, I'm playing.
We were having an argument just yesterday.
I was gonna mention that, but yeah.
Okay, go. No.
You go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
I wasn't there yet, so I wasn't ready to set it up yet.
Oh, okay. No, if you're gonna mention it, go ahead.
No. You go, because I wasn't ready to set it up yet.
No. Please go ahead.
Angelica, just go.
It's a good example. I'm happy you're saying this, because we had an argument. We had a large discussion within the last several days, and I couldn't get you to understand what I was trying to say, but you insisted on something, and I was like, how do I drag him out of this? So there was an article that was written, and the topic was on like, as a matter of fact, I think I have it saved.
No, you don't have to read it.
No, I'm not going to read it, but I have it saved, and I just want to give the title.
Spare the listeners.
Spare the readers. I know they're gonna weigh in, and that's it. Game over for everybody. They're gonna try. People are gonna be like, delete these people. Delete.
But first of all, say the source of this article.
Why does it matter what the source is?
It does matter.
Why? Why does it matter?
In this day and age, everybody knows the source is important.
That source is important. Oh, you know what? I didn't even save it.
So the source was Harper's Bazaar. So if you know what Harper's Bazaar is... You
see him, the way he emphasizes Harper's Bazaar.
Yeah.
Con eso te digo todo.
Yeah, because Harper's Bazaar...
shut up.
is like it's like Vanity Fair almost. It's like, you know, all the like they're like women centered art magazines.
Shut up.
Women centered magazines.
No, I don't mean to call you people. I don't really tell them to shut up like that. Not literally. It's me saying shut up is a way of me saying like, hey. So ahead, the name of the article is it's Harper's Bazaar. I didn't, but I knew who shared it, and I was like, oh, let me look really quick. It's from Harper's Bazaar, and it's called "Men Have No Friends and Women Bear the Burden." Mm-hmm. And then it really quickly, it says toxic masculinity and the persistent idea that feelings are female thing has left a generation of straight men stranded on an emotional stunted island, unable to forge intimate relationships with other men. It's women who are paying the price. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so we were having this argument about, I read the whole article to him because it was pretty long. I read the whole article to him, and I was like, just even the first 2 paragraphs, I was like, oh, okay, I can see this. I can see how this is a problem for like our generation, you know. So, and mind you, we're right at the cusp where millennials start and where Gen what?
I always mess up. We're in between. I want to say we're in between Gen Z.
Why?
No. Gen millennials and Gen X. Millennials and
I don't know. We're right up baby boomers. Juan, what? We're 70 now?
I don't know. Like
hold on. So
we're right at the cutoff.
My mom's a baby boomer, Juan.
Oh, okay. We're right at the cutoff where millennials begin. And I guess we're Gen X. I want to say Gen X. We're Gen X.
I don't know.
Ends.
Right when,
so
right
like
when
we're at that intersection. So,
yeah, we're right between. We're like in between those two.
Us, the Zillennials.
Zillennials.
Yeah.
So the argument was that Juan, I was trying to have the overall conversation about the article itself, and I was like I read it and I was like, so what do you think? And he's like. But there was an immediate reaction.
I took umbrage.
I took severe umbrage.
I took severe umbrage.
If you know where that's from, let us know.
To some of the terminology that the author, who I believe happened to be a woman.
Do you agree with everything you read entirely? Because this fool thinks I agreed with everything entirely.
No, I didn't it wasn't that I thought you agreed with everything, but what it was is that I didn't appreciate the usage.
I didn't appreciate the terminology. Oh my God, the article wasn't written just for you, Juan.
I didn't appreciate the terminology that was used to describe my, like, the other half, the other men in the room. Like, I didn't appreciate the fact that I think the word that she used was like,
oh my God,
what was it? Emotional gold diggers. And I was like,
gold diggers.
Yeah, I was like, gold diggers.
Gold diggers.
I was like,
it was like a whole on-full like drama scene.
And then
gold diggers.
And then Angelica was
gold diggers.
And then I was like, and then I asked Angelica the question. I was like, but is there ever a usage of the word gold digger that can have a positive connotation?
Ay Dios.
And Angelica was refusing to answer the question. She was like, that's not the point. That's not the point. And I was
no, that's not. I didn't refuse to answer it. I answered.
I was like, no, but like answer the question.
Juan, I answered.
Can you ever you say positive?
I answered.
Is there ever positive? And you were like, yes, there is. And I was like, no, there isn't.
I was like, it's not. You know what? I don't know. To me, if you call me a gold digger, I don't know if that's what I'm trying to do, and I don't care whether you call me a gold digger or not. It's all in perspective. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, that verbiage that she's using, or that way that she's using it, doesn't matter.
But it's used as an insult. So to me, that.
Oh my God! Again, here we go again. I'm trying to have the overall conversation about, do you agree, or what do you think about this, that men use women as emotional like tools?
And then I guess we won't take you through the entire like drama of our discussion, but it was like you said, it was 2 days like that we argued about it consistently.
It was.
But I guess my point in the whole thing was like, but words matter. The words that you use matter. But
I didn't write the article.
No, I know, but
so it's not like I told you the words. It's just it was an article written by somebody else. The overall conversation was, what do you think that if men what do you think? And you were like stuck on a word that she wrote, and I was like, no, you're right. The way she used emotional gold diggers, maybe that's not, I don't agree with it completely, but maybe that's not something she'd written. But you know what? That's not the conversation that I'm trying to have.
But you never said that. Like, had you said that, then we could have moved on.
Holy shit! Is this happening?
I was looking for you to say that.
Is this happening?
Say like, okay, yeah, she was wrong for using that word.
Oh my god!
And then I would have like, okay, let it go. Like, because what I said at the end is like,
I'm gonna get up. Oh my god! No, this is not happening.
Because I was like,
I said that several times to you.
No,
Juan.
You didn't use those words, so they
what?
Was like,
what are you talking?
So it was like,
oh my god!
You said I don't agree with everything that she says. You didn't say I don't agree with her using those words.
Juan. Okay, so here's the thing, and I seen it as you nitpicking at something that was unnecessary because I wanted to have the overall conversation because I did see part of what she was talking about in our relationship, not entirely, for sure, not entirely.
And so did I.
But I thought to myself, like, yeah, no, that's right. Juan doesn't really have a lot of like male friends. He doesn't. And it's not. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's your preference.
I don't.
Okay, it's your preference. Your preference.
Not that it's my preference. It's just like the way I used to. So it doesn't bother me.
A preference. It's and I was like, and you don't really see a therapist.
No.
So you hardly talk to your your siblings. It's occasionally. So everything that is talked to me. And for the most part, yeah. So when you get frustrated, like I said, you're passive. And so my thing was like, oh, I see it. I see like sometimes this can be a problem. Yeah. And I don't want to carry. There's times where I'm okay with like you telling me things and like I'm not taking the burden, but just telling me things and you passing things through me, whether it's about work or about other like, you know, not friends at work, but like work relationships that you're having and what maybe is happening and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, okay. Or the way you're feeling. Maybe sometimes you feel frustrated and you want to like let loose on your frustration. So when you don't have a therapist or you're close to your family, but you really don't like to share with them like what the day-to-day things. Like with that, it's me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like my mentality, like is like I don't open up a lot to a lot of people.
Correct.
About like things that I may be worried about or stressed out about. Like I don't know.
That's private conversation that I don't want to get into.
Like I feel like I've internalized like a lot of that process for myself. So I think that is like me. I deal with things internally. Yeah. I guess is what I do.
I don't want to open this kind of worms if that's not what we're trying to do here.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay. I'm just explaining. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just saying like, that's just me. That's just the way that I function. Yeah. So like, and even if like, I do think that I have some guy friends. Like there's people out there that I consider my friends, but even though that I consider them my friends, I wouldn't talk to them about those things because I just don't feel comfortable talking to them about those things. I don't feel comfortable to open up and be like...
Yeah, and that was part of the... No, and that was part of... Exactly. If you don't have guy friends that you feel comfortable, like, being emotional around, then maybe that's a therapist you can have maybe once every 2 weeks, once a month. Like, that's just something that people do. You know what I'm saying? And so, what I was trying to say was that was the conversation that was happening, right? Where I was like, you're focused on a term that was used. You don't agree with you. Obviously, you're very offended by it. And I'm thinking to myself... No, but that's
the thing. I wasn't offended. Like, you were taking it as I was offended. And I was like, I'm not offended by the word.
Juan, you wouldn't move on from it.
No, I wouldn't move on because I wanted you to acknowledge that the word was used incorrectly and it was used...
Even now, I moved on from it. Even now, I agree.
No, like, I just wanted you to like, acknowledge that the way that the word was being used in the article, it was not like it was used like in a way to be judgmental. And I guess my whole thing about the discussion,
this is what I mean.
But my whole thing about what I was saying is that this is a person who's coming from a place of influence, and she's influencing other people that are reading this article, and the language that she's using to influence is like a loaded language that's already coming in with negative connotations to call people emotional gold diggers. So I was like, I just don't think that was appropriate, and I didn't like it, and I just wanted you to acknowledge that it was wrong. Or I was just, and even if you didn't agree with that it was wrong, just to see my point. That's all I was trying to say in that discussion.
Okay. And sometimes it's obvious here also on the podcast itself that you like to be heard.
But doesn't everybody?
And so, Juan, sometimes
doesn't everybody like to be heard?
Does it? Like, I'm not gonna fight. Does it really matter? No, yes, people like to be heard.
Yeah.
But to make your point, does it really matter?
I think it does. Like, to me,
why?
It did matter.
Why does it matter? Sometimes you have to let it go for the sake of the overall goal, Juan. The point is for our relationship to win, and sometimes you have. And I've said this before, in a relationship, in a communication, you have to fold.
Yeah, and when we talk about this argument, to me, this was an argument that was like, that wasn't really that significant because it was an argument that was just about like an article. So it wasn't like it didn't really have a lot of weight to it, to me.
Correct.
The argument itself. Yeah. So it wasn't like it was really impacting our relationship.
But do you see the little things that happen within the argument?
Yeah.
That even if it was something about bigger, it could be problematic when those little things happen?
Yes, but if it was about something more important, then I would have been like, then I would have folded faster, or then I would have been like more.
You see, and that's the problem with communication. I don't know if I believe you.
I would have been a little bit more forgiving, but like in terms of like the conversation.
Okay.
But like I think because to me it was kind of a fluff argument that we were having. That was more kind of a debate than an argument, and I was kind of like, well, no,
debate.
Yeah, it was almost like a debate to me. Like,
why was it a debate? I was having a real conversation with you about like emotional tolls that women take.
Yeah, but then we started.
So how is that a debate?
Because then we started getting into the debate of
we didn't get into it. You dragged me into it because you didn't want to let it go.
But it was about the usage of the language.
No, that wasn't my conversation though.
But that was
you
my
took it
conversation.
There. But again, when the conversation started, I wanted to talk about like, what about this? And you were like, no, you know what? You know what's the problem with this article? This, and this, and this. And I was like, okay, but I'm not trying to debate. I'm not trying to pull apart the article. I'm trying to pull apart the message.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's not keep griping about this article.
No, baby. But that's what we're talking about when we talk about communication, is when we start to pull apart, when we start to say, oh, this is a problem, and then another one says that this is the problem, then we're not like, nobody's agreeing to anything, and that becomes part of the problem with communication. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so do we communicate well? Again, I think before, I think 10 years ago, my God, I would have been like, pull over the car. I don't want anything in the car. Get off the car. Do this. I would have been like, and then it would have been a full on fight for like a whole week. Mm-hmm. Like to the point where we just, yeah.
But I think for me, like, I think the point, the only thing that I can say that was realistically that I can say that applies to this relationship is that I think that the usage of language matters. So like that was the only thing that I was saying. Like, I'm done with
that argument, Juan. You have to let it go.
No, I'm not. I have let it go. I'm just saying that like the usage, like my point and feeling so strongly about it was just the fact that I do think that the way you argue things matters, because you can't just argue and because you're in the heat of the moment just like say whatever that comes to mind, or like throw like words out there that are going to be like that are meant to like provoke. You can't just throw words out there in that way. You have to like choose your words carefully, because that's part of communication to me. So to me, like, that's all I was trying to say, and that's the only thing that I felt like that realistically could be pulled away from that to apply it to like our real relationship, like to our relationship, to say that the words that you choose do matter. This is the silent treatment now?
No, I heard you. I heard you.
And then?
I never disagreed with any of that.
Okay.
I never disagreed from the beginning, any of that. I never disagreed. I think you're using that as a metaphor to try to make a point, to come across as to something else, as to like verbiage matters. We all know verbiage matters, but I didn't write the article.
No, I know. And that's all.
Okay.
But that was my whole thing. I was just trying to explain. That's the only point that I was trying to get across from the beginning. And I think that like the fact that I was trying to use the article to make a point, and you were trying to use the article to have a conversation. So we weren't really like, we weren't meeting in the middle, because you were trying to achieve one thing and I was trying to achieve another. So, not that I'm not saying that you invited the conversation or that you started it or that you took it there. I'm saying that I'm the one that, like, when it was hard for me to get past the wording. It was hard.
Yes, it's obvious you were.
It was hard for me to move forward from that.
Yes, 20 minutes later, it's still difficult for you to move forward from that.
Yeah, like, because I still don't like it.
But I don't. Okay, you heard me say it here. You're right. I don't agree with some of the verbiage that was used. And you still insist that, okay, well, I still have a problem with it. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't help it at this point.
But I think that example, like, just so that you guys take something away from this, and it's not just us bickering, like, I guess in that example, like, I guess what I would see, and I don't know if you agree with that, is that you were trying to do one thing and I was trying to do another. And we weren't trying to do the same thing.
Okay, well, I let you rant for a little bit. So...
Do you hear the shade in that?
Yeah. So... there was still a conversation that I wanted to have as I read that article that we could never get to because you insisted we had to have the other conversation about the verbs that were used.
But we did get to it.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, because at the end what I said is, like, I don't disagree with what she said. I agree with a lot of the things that she said in her article. But it was hard for me to get. It was hard for me to acknowledge that.
Can you not bring up the verbiage that she used?
Okay, I won't bring it up. But I'm just saying.
Then don't bring it up. Then stop bringing it up. What I'm saying is, within the article, in the overall messaging that she was saying was, do women take on the burden of having men emotional, like, taking on the emotional baggage of men because they're refused to either seek out help, like get a therapist, or to seek friendships, or like talk to other people, and they use their spouse, or they use the girlfriend, or they use whatever female, like their sister that they have confidence in, as a I don't know, as a person who hears you.
As a confidant. As like the person that you, like that you.
As your therapist.
Where you donde te desahogas, ¿no?
Yeah. Yeah. And then use them constantly for that. And then sometimes it's not in a way that is healthy. You know what I mean? And so that was the conversation that I was trying to have. And that was it. That's all I was trying to do.
Yeah. And like I said, I can agree with a lot of what she said. And I also think that women also depend on men for other things. So I think it's like...
Women depend on men for other things? Like
yeah.
What?
Like I think that... Yeah, I don't know. I can't think about everything immediately right now. But I think there are things that, maybe men might say, like, oh, well, like it feels like... I do feel like sometimes it overwhelms me.
Ouch.
Like that my wife or my girlfriend or, wants a lot of attention, or wants to talk all the time, or wants to say all her feelings all the time. Like that may be something that, does that you could like make the argument and say, well, then like, that is something else that, maybe they need a girlfriend.
He's trying to come with it right now in his head. He's trying to figure it out right now. You hear him like trying to calculate, like trying to figure it out, trying to rattle a little bit and try to make sense of something.
No, but just to say, like, yeah, like I definitely see.
So let's go back to the first part. No, let's just go back because we can stay here forever.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hash it out here. This is definitely not the platform to do it, or this is not the place, not with microphones in front of us. But your question originally was, do we communicate? Do we communicate better, right?
Yes, and I think we do, because at the end of that, like, even though we were frustrated with each other, like, I leaned over and I gave you a kiss, and I walked inside, and I left you alone in the car. And then you walked inside later when you were ready, and then we were fine. Like, we didn't argue. We didn't, like, it didn't proceed to become another argument.
Do you think it's because you leaned over and gave me a kiss, or do you think it's because...
No, I don't think that it was... No, I don't... Yes, it was all my kisses. No, but I think that is like it's a gesture to say, like, hey, I know we just argued, but it's not that, like, I don't know. This just, to me, it's like saying, like, hey, you know what?
I think for a lot of the communication between us, I think I've gotten to a point where, for me, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I have to, my way of folding, my way of just stopping is to, like I said earlier, is to go silent, to go, like, lock myself away, or like what I do when sometimes we'll argue in the car, and I'll stay in the car, and I can literally be in the car for hours hours, because I'm like, I have to let this go. And it's a lot of talking myself out of things. It's a lot of talking myself out of, like, don't go like barging into the room and start to like lay it down. Don't do that, right? But then, like, I feel like sometimes and maybe it's not always the healthy way, because you'll go into the room and be like, so you're just not going to talk to me? And that tone and that wording just sets me off. I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, there's definitely...
Like, I left it alone. Like, I'm the one that we're here because of now. Now we're not arguing because of me. I did this. Like, be grateful that I didn't keep taking it and pushing and pushing and pushing it and got my way. And I, like, any little thing, and I'm like set off. I'm like, oh, hey.
Well, there's definitely a point of the conversation where when you push a certain button and you're like, oh, okay, now you know that this isn't gonna stop here. It's gonna, like,
I know. I start going down the road where I'm like, you know what, Juan, don't mess with me, because I will stand over you in the middle of the night and pour cold water all over your face.
And I think it's
I don't care.
And I think it's like I don't know if you feel it from me, like when you like do something and you're like, oh, okay, like here we go, like he's not gonna like lay off for a while, or he's gonna keep going down this road. But like I do feel it sometimes when I, like, if I'm irritated, and then I'll go and like do that, and I'll be like, well, why aren't you like, or you're not gonna talk to me, and then like, in like, I guess in a way, like, I'm kind of messing with you,
because you're still mad or frustrated,
because I'm frustrated. And then at some point, then when you start like you start like reacting when you're like, Juan, da da da, like, well, like, this is what happened, and like you start with the, like, let's go back to what happened, let's go back to the beginning, and I'm like, oh shit, why did I do that? Like, now we're gonna have this whole discussion all over again.
No, because here's the thing, I've sat down for hours, and I know exactly why. And that's the problem that I think you don't understand, that I've had time to sit down and think about it. I'm no longer mad, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's go with your theory. Let's go down the road that you want to take me. And I will go down, and I've learned this from you, because you'll ask me questions and you'll be like, why this? Why that? And so I am in a mindset like, oh, he's going to ask me why. And I got to answer, like, each stop of the way, I got to answer why. So let's just go down your road, Juan. And I'll do that. And he'll be like...
So you said you learned to step away, like, what, to be quiet.
I've learned to stay quiet and understand why I'm upset, and know what I'm going to communicate with you based on what I think you might say, and based on the way I feel about it.
And I've learned to step away, like, to try to, when I'm getting to that point where I'll be like, I just need to step away right now. And it's still hard for me to say. I think I've only said it probably a handful of times where I'm like, let's just stop. I've only said it like a handful of times where I'm like, you know what, let's stop, let's stop, because I don't want to, like, because I think I need a moment, like, to step away, because I feel like sometimes when you take a moment to walk away and then you just breathe a little bit, like, even if it's just like you're in the room and I'm in the living room, or I go outside, or I go for a drive, or whatever, I think it's just, sometimes you just need a pause to be like, you know what, he's being like this, or she's being like that, and like, get
Are
your,
we
like,
giving pointers to, like, for people to better communicate?
No, I'm just saying. No, because you said what you like, what one thing you were doing that was helping you to have better communication. I'm just sharing one thing that I don't
know. I don't know if that's because I do a better communication. I think I do it because I know I need the time to, like, assess. And right. I need to know why I'm mad, and what I need to tell you why I'm mad. And and the thing, sometimes the deployment of that isn't always for a good reason.
No, and I don't, like, with me either. Like, when I say sometimes I want to walk away, it's because I'm mad or I'm frustrated to the point where I'm like, I just don't want to have this conversation anymore. But in doing that, I know that part of it is also, like, stepping away is going to allow me to be like, okay, let's just take a step back and, like, think about this for a moment, or like, how did this argument actually start, and what was she actually trying to say, and what were you actually trying to say?
Puro pedo, Juan. Do you really go and think like that?
I do sometimes. Like I said, I've only done it a handful of times, but I do try. I do feel like it's easier for me to do that now, where before I would have never been like one to say, like, I'm going to back away. Instead, I would be like, no, I'm going to argue my point, and I'm going to argue with you until you see my point. And I wouldn't get out of that. And I think now, like, I don't know, like, I feel like that's, like, it just, like now that I've done it a few times, then I'm like, okay, yeah, that is better. It is easier to come back to something after you've taken a moment to walk away. Mm-hmm. And like sometimes it is good to like stop talking too, like to just be like, but then you don't let me stop talking because you're like, oh, or are you gonna answer me?
That's not true. I've said it, and I'll say it here. And I've told you before in a very nice, sometimes very much nice way, and sometimes not very much nice way. And I say, sometimes some of us, I don't want to say it the way I've said it before in the past, because I say it in a way that when I'm very upset, and cussing when you're upset isn't always the best thing to do. So don't cuss at your partner when you're mad. But I'll say things like, sometimes the best thing you can do is learn to shut the fuck up.
But see, that I think that even like I don't know, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like I think that's like a.
And I'm not telling you that in the overall, and not like shut the fuck up like that. What I mean is sometimes some of us. Let me say it like this, because it sounds mean when I say it like that. What I mean by that is that sometimes the best thing you can do is you stop and just listen. That's all you have to do, is just stop and listen. And I think I'm taking my own advice, and I've come down to the point where I have to stop talking. Mm-hmm. I have to stop talking, and I have to listen. What do they say? You got 2 ears for a reason and 1 mouth. Mm-hmm. You have to listen more than you talk.
Yeah, but I mean, I think sometimes it's easy to want to be heard. It's not always as easy to want to listen to the other person, because like, I mean, I think it's easy if you're it's easy for either one of us to tell the other one, like, you need to just be quiet and listen to what I have to say. But it's not.
But you shouldn't be told. You should know when to stop.
But no, like sometimes you like sometimes.
But no.
Like sometimes.
But no.
No, because sometimes that's not like, the thing is, to me, is like, it's not a like, it's never. It should never be a one-way road where I
don't think that's what I said.
Where only one person gets heard.
I don't think that's what I said.
I think there should always be room for two people to be heard. Maybe two people don't need to be heard right now. Maybe one person can be heard now, and then later the other person can be heard, so that there's not an argument. But I don't think that there should ever be a case where it's just like just one person is going to be heard.
So what I mean by folding is that. Is your argument really, like, do you have to make your complete argument? Like, do you really have to be heard? Do you absolutely, for everything, have to be heard?
And I think that's
every single time.
And I think that's what I was saying. Not like, maybe you don't, and in that moment, you don't have to make your point in that moment
at all.
But at some point, you can come back at all. No, but at some point, you can come back and make your point.
If it makes sense, and if every time you talk and everything that you say, like, you're important, like, you as an existing person are important, period. Mm-hmm. Point blank, period. Mm-hmm. So nobody can ever take that away from you. Now, everything you say, is it important?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. Now, and not just you, like, in general, everyday people, in their everyday life and their everyday moment, is everything they say important?
Not every single thing that you say or that thought that you have is important.
Exactly.
But I think if you want
that should be the same concept. No,
but I think that should be the same. Heard,
that should be the same, like, product that you take into, like, arguments. It's like, is what I'm saying, like, is it going to make me happy? Is it going to make this relationship any better if I'm absolutely heard? Because what I'm saying is absolutely so important that I need to make this point.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying, and I feel like I'm saying something very similar to that. So let's just leave that there. But but I think it's also like that. I guess what I would like.
I promise you, Juan, sometimes I just let you have the last word.
No, like, I feel like
even now.
Okay.
I have to. Sometimes I just got to poke at him, because I'm like, okay, you know what, Juan?
No, because sometimes I think, like, if you get to a point where you're competing to be heard, and then sometimes it feels like, you get to that point where it's like, aquí nomás mis chicharrones truenan, no? Like, you're like, I'm the only one that's going to be heard here. And then if you get to that place, either one way or the other, or like one person feels that the other person is doing that, then it becomes a game of like, who has the upper hand? Who has like the...
Yeah, and that's a game that I don't like to play. Yeah. It's like, who has the upper hand? I don't want to do that.
And at the end of the day, I mean, I guess that's the point, is like, that we've tried to learn over the years is like
at least we tried.
That it's not a
forgive us if we obviously need a lot of help and a lot of work here.
That that it's not it definitely shouldn't be a game like that. That at some point you have to kind of step back and be like, okay, like, is this argument really worth it?
But I have to tell you, that's a lot. You saying it right now, even me hearing you say it right now, that sounds easier, but doing it is completely different.
Yeah, like it's hard. Like it's not always easy.
It is, and I agree.
Especially when you feel strongly about something that you're arguing about. Like, no matter how minuscule or stupid you.
But that's what I'm saying. You think it's important and you feel strongly about it, but the fact of the matter is not that you feel strongly about it. You feel strongly about being heard, period.
Yeah.
It's not even the argument anymore. It's about being heard. And so you have to, like, I think that's it's part of narcissism. You're like, do I have to absolutely be heard? And you're like, yes, I would like to be heard, but do I need to be heard? And the reality is no, not always. Not every time.
I think you just had the last word.
No, I'm not trying to have the last word. What I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. What? Juan, you know what? No. You stay quiet on purpose to see if I take the last word. Trying to bait me. You seen that?
No, because you said like that's narcissism, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, wait, what are you trying to say?
not. You know what, Juan? It's not a trait that only narcissists have. Like, we all have narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah.
So it's not you. Like, I'm not calling you a narcissist. You have to know when those attributes of that quality are taking place, as opposed to you being the person who,
But being able to communicate with each other is definitely makes like life easier. It definitely makes like.
Well, obviously we all agree with that.
Well, no, I mean, but I think we all agree with it. But like sometimes when you don't do it, like if it's taking you, like it's taking us a long time to
say do it again. Say do it again.
Do it again.
No, say do it.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I don't know, because you said it right now and you're like, yeah, well, like everybody wants to do it. And I'm like, take me to the song. Do it now, do it. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. It's just the way you said it. Okay, go ahead.
Well, everybody doesn't want to do it, but also do this.
What the fuck? What was that? What do you... Did they just get like a rated R night show? My
this
God.
Is like the After Dark show.
Oh my God.
No, but I think like a lot of people want to have better communication, but it's all like obviously like it's taken us a long time to get to have better communication. And I think that one thing that we can say for sure, and I think that we can agree on, is that once we started communicating better, like I think life just got easier. Like our relationship just got a little bit more.
It's much more better than what it used to be.
Like it's easy. It's a lot more to have conversations. It's a lot more. It's a lot easier to have the important conversations like that before, because we couldn't even have the small conversations. Like when it came time to have the bigger conversations, it was like pretty much like impossible, because it was kind of like you knew it was just automatically going to lead to an argument.
Yeah, I think that for me, Juan, that I think me, like I said, I said earlier that like, I feel like I know who I am and I know what I want through my relationship, even with you, and my other relationships. Like I'm at a point where I'm understanding them and I know what I want. Excuse me, but like. Communication became easier with you, not because of just me and being afraid of your reactions, but because you've, in addition to me stepping up and being like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. In addition to that, you feel, not because I did that, but at some point you started to let your guard down.
Yeah. It's like a thing where you reciprocate, because you acknowledge that, she didn't have to do that, or he didn't have to take that step, and then you're like, okay, well, he's folding a little bit. Let me kind of meet him a little bit there, or let me meet her a little bit where she's coming from, and then I think it becomes easier to do that more and more, and then it becomes easier for you to initiate.
Yeah,
and then it's like, okay. Like, okay, now we have an understanding going.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that, like, you're never going to have arguments, because that clearly is not the truth, but, like, or that you're never going to, like, get to the point where you, like, really disagree about something. But it becomes easier to at least try to navigate those conversations without going to that, like, bad spot all the time.
Yeah, that bad place. Everybody. You know how that goes. Y'all know how that goes. There's certain, like, little things happen, and you already know what's going to happen. People are just... you stop listening, I stop listening. We just start going at it in ways that aren't healthy. And I have to say that that's not something that we do anymore. We don't go there immediately. That's not immediate. And I have to, going back to, I have to say again, that I feel like we haven't done that in such a long time.
Yeah, and I think it's big. And I do think that...
But do you see our growth?
Yeah, I think it's the growth. And I do think that it's also, I think it's the getting older thing. And like you said, knowing yourself... knowing yourself better, and just understanding the way that you communicate better. And like, I think it's just like being more comfortable with saying like, you know what, this is what I need to say, this is what I want, and this is what, like, you know, how I feel.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of times we don't do that when we're younger. Like, for some reason, like, we're so like, I don't know, I almost feel like we're trying to be like something else, or we're trying to like live our lives according to what we think should be, could be, or whatever, and we're not like really like just honest with ourselves about, okay, like this is what I'm comfortable with, and you know, that's me. I don't know if anybody else is, but this is what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I think it's like cause I think when you're younger, like, it's just hard to, like, some people do it, and it's impressive to see, like, when some people know themselves that well at a young age, and you're like, wow, like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen some people be very good at their communication younger than us, and I'm like, how did you get there though so fast? I'm like, I'm so jealous. How did you do that?
I'm like, who taught you?
Tell us the truth.
Where'd you go?
You're a robot.
No,
you're not real.
But it is helpful, and I think, you know, I think that was the whole purpose of me trying to have this conversation. And I thought, you know, the beginning of a new year, I think a lot of times people are talking about goals and things like that at the beginning of the year.
Communicate with me better? Love me better?
Sure. No, it's always a goal. It doesn't have to be a New Year's goal. Like, I think in general, like,
that looks so uncomfortable.
No, I know.
Sure.
I know, because I was trying to joke with you.
Oh.
But no, I mean, that's always a goal. That's not a New Year's resolution. I think in our marriage, like, it's always a goal to like communicate better. But I think this being the beginning of a year, like, I think communication, whether it's in a relationship, like a married relationship, or like not a mosca, like the moscas always come out.
They look like they're coming out your mouth. All right, go ahead.
No, but like, I think, you know, communication, whether it's in a relationship like this, or whether it's like relationships with friends, relationships with coworkers, relationships, like, I think the better you can communicate, the better you can like get at feeling comfortable communicating. I think it's a benefit to whatever your goals might be for the year. So that's why I was like, you know what, that might be a good conversation to talk about to kick off the year.
This was a good conversation. I don't know how it's going to come across. Hopefully when I watch back the video, I'm like, oh my God, we're so crazy. Yeah.
And hopefully, like, I mean, you take away something from us. If nothing else,
it was a good fight, huh?
Yeah, like, and nothing else, it was an entertaining
discussion argument
to watch. But no, I mean, like, in reality, like,
we're going to unsubscribe.
Well, you know what? Actually, let me say, I did want to say this. So somebody in our on our comments on YouTube said, like, you guys are such good communicators, and I love the way that you have these open conversations with each other. And like, you know, are
you being serious, or is that a joke?
No, that was honest. And I responded to him, and I was like, you know, it's a work in progress, and it's still a work in progress. And I was like, you know, it hasn't always been this easy for us to just talk about the things that we've even talked about on this podcast, which I still feel like we're very guarded on what we talk about.
Yeah.
I'm like, we wouldn't have been that comfortable talking about it, you know, just years ago, because, you know, it's a work in progress. Even a few
years ago.
Yeah.
Even like as little as like 3 years ago.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah. So if you can take that and you know, if that can like give you any encouragement that, you know, if you work on it, maybe you can improve it. And like, sometimes maybe it does take more than just yourselves and working with it. Maybe it does take counseling, or maybe it does take like something else, like therapy, or like, you know, a support group, or like
Juan.
No, it does.
Okay.
Like, it's for us, like, I mean, we like we've talked about it before, like with the marriage encounters, like that did help our communication. So like that, even though that's not therapy, I feel like it was almost like a form of therapy.
I don't know if it helped me with communication. It helped me with. We'll talk about it another time on another topic. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned it because for me, I feel like it did help me with communication.
Okay.
But anyway, we can go on with this topic, but I think this is kind of a long episode already, but
yeah,
I'll just end it here and say thank you to our sponsors. Thank you guys for watching and for listening to us. And as we always mention, if you are listening to this podcast and you want to watch us, you can also watch us. And you can watch our crazy little arguments and the way we're kind of making faces at each other while we're talking. We actually upload on Facebook. And we upload on YouTube, so you can watch us there. But you can find all our links on juanawords.com.
And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a comment or a rating. The more comments and ratings we get, we obviously get bumped to searchable. So we would like to be searchable. So if you love to give us like just a ratings, it doesn't really take long. You just, hit a 5-star.
Yep.
Please. Is it 5 or 4?
5 stars.
5 stars, yeah. Hit a 5-star. We greatly appreciate it. Leave us a comment. And if you would be so kind and nice, share.
Yeah, share it. And when you're done finishing listening to this podcast, go look for If Not You, Then Who.
Woo-hoo.
And that's Angelica's podcast.
Yeah.
And listen to her on that one as well.
Yeah, mine are much shorter. They're definitely not an hour long. They're short. If you're doing short commutes, put on If Not You, Then Who. Those are small conversations that I have on over there. Would love a subscription from some of you guys from here from Juan Words Podcast.
Yeah. So anywhere you're listening to us, thank you. Happy New Year. We hope you're getting ready for a good year. And, let's leave it there because I don't want a repeat of 2020. So
yeah. All right.
All right.
Until next time. Enjoy that. Bye.
Bye.